Hi, Stephen from Own or Disown. HP were kind enough to send me the new HP Omen 17. Now, I have reviewed the 15T, the new one, which I bought myself. So if you haven't seen that one, make sure to click up here. But that was a really good laptop, available with an i9, and I got a 2080 Max-Q in that. Now, this model has the i7 9750H and the 2060, 16 gigabytes of RAM. In fact, all of the models start with 16 gigabytes of RAM, 2 sticks of 8 gigs, but you can expand that to 32 gigabytes. And of course, you can also get a 1660 Ti all the way up to a 2070 or 2080. Now, we're not talking just the Max-Q versions here. These are the full powered ones, so 115 watts 2070 and a 150 watt 2080. So that is pretty sweet to have. Panel wise, you can start off with a 60 hertz panel. You can also have, of course, 1080p. You can have 144 hertz. You can have 240 hertz, and if you want 4K, that is an option too. And you can always go up to maximum 32 gigabytes of RAM and a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD storage. So pricing starts at $1,200 and it goes all the way up to about $2,640 for the fully loaded system. And I think that's a fairly decent deal. So this is a first look. Full review will follow shortly. And let's see what we did have in the box now. I have taken everything out already, and this is what you get. You get the instruction booklet, and you get warranty information. You get a nice compact 200 watt power brick. Now, of course, if you go for the higher end models, no doubt you will get a higher powered brick, of course. And of course, you get the laptop here, which is an all aluminium build construction, and it's very solid. No seams, no creaks, and it's very nice indeed. Now, the key lighting on the model is like the 15-inch. You have 4 zones. You have one zone here, a zone for the AWSD keys, a zone in the middle, and the number pad is a separate zone. Now, you can't configure different patterns or anything. You can configure just the brightness and the color, but it's a more of a subtle approach. And I quite like that. No massive bling. In fact, this whole laptop doesn't scream bling to you, so it's fairly subtle in design. So this is the underside, all aluminium, nice and solid, very tough to get into, particularly this front edge, very tight, but persevere, you'll get in. Large feet here at the back, and of course you've got a nice gap here to allow airflow through in here. In fact, you can see the air intakes there, and it is fairly solid. And then you have some foam here for the hard drive to stop it vibrating. You have the 70 watt hour battery. Expect around about 2.5 hours of runtime, I would say. You have the speakers here, no subwoofer, which is a shame. But you do have quite a bit of storage. You have 2 M.2 slots. 1, 2, and a thermal pad is included for the one that's in. You have 2 RAM slots. A 2.5-inch drive, that's great. It's a 1 terabyte, 7,200 RPM hard drive, so that is nice. You've got the GPU here, and you've got the CPU here. 2 shared heat pipes, and 1 extra one for the GPU with 3 heat sinks in total. You have the SD card reader there, and Intel Wi-Fi 6 AX200 Wi-Fi cards there. Not too bad. So yeah, all in all, looks good. So comparing the lids, 17-inch and the 15-inch, same basic design. Still prefer it to the old design, of course. No red accents here. More of a brushed finish here, I would say, on the 17-inch, but it's more subtle here on the 15-inch. But still, it's very nice. And of course, you have Omen written on the back for each one. Comparing the keyboards between the 17-inch and the 15-inch. Big difference is the programmable macro keys on the 17-inch, which aren't available on here. Now, the keyboards are exactly the same length, 34 centimeters, and both, of course, have the brushed aluminum look, same trackpad size, and the same mouse buttons, Elan trackpads. But it's very responsive, really good, and you have the same hinge style on each one. So all in all, not bad at all. Now a keyboard comparison between the Mech 17 and the Omen 17. Of course, Mech 17 has the mechanical keyboard and a much larger Windows Precision touchpad, but I do like having the separate mouse buttons here on the Omen. Very nice. does tend to show a bit more fingerprints and grease stains, as you can see here on the brushed aluminum of the HP Omen. Other than that though, all pretty decent. You do have Windows Hello on the Mech 17, no fingerprint reader or anything here on the Omen. So looking at the ports on the left, Omen 15 on the top, 17 inch at the bottom. Very similar port layout, but a subtle difference. So we have the from left to right here, we have the power connector at the left, which I do like. It's at the back, I like that. And then we've got the Ethernet port, HDMI port. On the 17 inch we have a mini display port, which is a bit further along here on the 15 inch. Two USB type A ports, a Thunderbolt 3 port, and for the 17 inch you do have separate mic and headphone jacks, which I do prefer. Now the ports on the left, we have an SD card reader, which accepts the card all the way in, which is nice. A USB type A port and an air vent, exactly the same as on the 15 inch. And you'll notice the speaker grill here firing down at the right hand side. And around the back, an identical layout, not much difference at all. Of course you have the Omen engraved here at the back, it's nice. And as for its weight, we're looking at about £7. The 15 inch is about £5, 8 ounces. And with the power brick, looking at a travel weight of about £8, 6 ounces. So the speaker test is around about 70 decibels. On the right, we have the Omen 17. In the center, the Omen 15, so you can gauge the size difference, and on the left, Electronics Mech 17. Now this Mech 17 and the Omen 15 have a brightness of about 330 nits. This is 278 nits on the Omen 17. Now I would say, looking at the colours, it probably does look a little bit more vibrant in the 15 inch and the Mech 17, but only slightly. And over to our backlight bleed test. Omen 17 on the right, the 15 inch Omen in the middle, Electronics Mech 17 again on the left. And I would say the Omen 17 does have some backlight bleed on the bottom left and right corners. So the command center says version 8.01. So of course you've got the system vitals, network booster, macros. Of course you've got a row macro keys to do that. You've got performance. Of course, max performance default, that would lower the clocks a little bit, and you do get about 5% less FPS, and of course comfort if you want extra battery life. Now one big omission here is no max fan control compared to the update I had on the Omen 15, which suggests this will operate much like my 15 did before the update. So in performance mode, running Cinebench R20, it's a quick test. You can see it's hovering around about 3000 megahertz mark, which is not a huge amount. The PL1 setting in performance mode here is 55 watts and PL2 is 90 watts. And you can see it's settling here, staying at around that 55 watt mark. And the temperatures, it's running 63 degrees, peaked about 78. So the score we get at the end is 2,357. So it's a bit on the low side, but I'm sure I could get that higher. Alright, so running AIDA64 for about 13 minutes. This is the CPU stress test. The clock speeds are settling around about 3,700 megahertz, which is pretty decent actually, it's not too bad. And the temperatures at 75, 74 degrees, peaking at 90. So far that seems pretty decent, and it's the power. It's actually pulling around about 80 watts, so that's not bad at all. So Far Cry 5 running as well as AIDA64. Now AIDA64 has been running for about an hour now. One thing to note here, the CPU is pulling about 81 watts, which is insane. Now this is what I was getting on my Omen 15 before an update changed the command center. Now you'll notice, of course, the CPU spikes up into the mid 90s there, of course. And you'll notice in the command center there is no max fan option here. So I'll have to play around with it and see if I can get an update to see if they'll change that, because what they did then was also lower the CPU watts, which makes a big difference. So if you're looking here at 8 info, I mean, it's holding a decent clock, 33,700, but it is getting a little bit too warm. So Battlefield 5, this actually runs around about 35 watts on the CPU, meaning that of course it runs pretty cool. As you can see, 77 degrees, clock rate around about 2,800. But the frame rate is pretty decent here, isn't it? So I think all in all, that's not too bad at all. So here is a comparison between the Mech 17 running the 2060 non-turbo boost and also the Omen 17 running the RTX 2060 as well, running the Far Cry 5 benchmark. And you will notice that the Mech 17 does have a slight advantage in frame rate, not much, but does have a slight one. Perhaps more noticeable is the increased temperature on the Omen 17 because of the higher watts. It's pulling, about 70 watts, much more than the Mech 17. The GPU temperature is very good, so that's doing a good job, but I would like to try and rein in this CPU temperature a little bit if I can. So it looks pretty good. I quite like it. The panel seems quite decent. The keyboard's good build quality. The speakers are decent as well. I'm going to tinker with the CPU, of course, to try and get that boost up a little bit higher, keep temperatures in control. I do wish there was a max fan option on this model. It was available on my 15-inch. I'm not sure why it's not available here. But I'll put in a description below a link to where you could buy it. It's an affiliate link, so that will help support my channel. It's directly to the HP store. And also put in the comments what you'd like me to test in the review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.